Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Scoop podcast with Sam and Jordan. Today we're going to react and go over the 96th Oscars from last night, celebrating the 2023 movies where Oppenheimer won Best Picture. We were just going to go over the winners and what we thought of the show, and then I had like 5 questions or things to think about in the future for Oscars to come based on what we just saw. We want to talk about the hosting first. Jimmy Kimmel hosted for the 4th time. He was okay.
Jimmy Kimmel is the insurance policy that the Academy is cashing right now. Like, he's going to make sure that stuff stays relatively not super offensive. They're not too worried about him. And he's done it enough years now where it's like, he's like learned the ropes in a sense.
Yeah, he's learned to do the monologue, not just with award shows, but obviously with his late night show. So he's used to talking to crowds and doing the whole hosting thing because he's done it so much. So yeah, it wasn't like there was anything. He had a few funny bits, like the John Cena thing was kind of funny. And then he like live responded to Trump.
Yeah,
and
that was pretty.
That was ridiculous.
Honestly, though, the moment, and you might have been planning on bringing this up, but there was like one award or one segment that John Mulaney got to speak in, and I'm just like, can we just get him to host the Oscars? Like,
yeah, apparently he hosted the Governor's Ball, which is an Oscar pre-ceremony. Like, I think it's like a few weeks before the Oscars. They get together some of the people and give some non-competing awards out, and he hosted that. And I think he hosted the Independent Spirit Awards before, so he's probably on the short list for next year, or I don't know how many more times they're going to get Jimmy Kimmel to do it. But did you have any other like potential hosts for next? I had a few more host ideas for next year.
I don't know if I have anyone that I would trust to do it well. That's like, obviously, like, I would love if Amelia de Moldenberg did it, but she doesn't have, like, experience speaking to large crowds like that. Her chemistry is more, like, one-on-one and flirtatious in her, like, interviewing style. But other than her, it would be the most milquetoast Oscars, but it would go over well, like Chris Evans or something. Not Chris Evans. Is it Chris Evans? Who's the guy who hosts Hot Ones?
Sean Evans, I think is his name.
Yeah, Sean Evans could do it.
But then you're going to expect all the nominees to eat.
No, I just mean, like, this could take him out of the First We Feast,
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of, like, comedians, like John Mulaney we talked about, but, Andy Samberg would be pretty good. He hosted Independent Spirit Award.
Oh, that's
Aubrey Plaza did one as well, so she would be very interesting. Another thing I was thinking about was, remember when it was James Franco and Anne Hathaway and they were co-hosting, like 2011?
No, I don't remember that.
It was when she was in Les Mis and he was in 127 Hours.
Wow.
So I was thinking, what if they did like Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya to promote Dune 2?
That'd be great.
Assuming they're not nominated, or maybe if they are nominated. I think James Franco and Anne Hathaway were nominated when they hosted as well, so that would be actually pretty funny. But
yeah, having like multiple hosts could be better.
Well, they did that 2 years ago with Amy Schumer and Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall, and that wasn't that good.
Well, that's the casting problem.
Yeah,
that's not the structure problem.
It's hard to like knock it out of the park, but I think they got to stop doing Jimmy Kimmel. Like, it's like,
gotta go.
It's not that he's bad; it's just like we get it.
His jokes are very catered to like dads. Like, he tells only dad jokes.
Yeah, we need someone a little bit younger.
I need to be the person that says that, but I totally agree.
Okay, well, now we'll talk about the actual winners. So Oppenheimer was the big winner with 7 and actually won maybe 1 or 2 fewer than was expected. But, won Best Picture, Best Director.
Cillian
Murphy, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, it's not surprising that it won a lot. Like,
Yeah, it was nominated for 13, so it won more than half, but some people thought it would sweep even more. Second place was Poor Things with 4. Emma Stone ended up winning Best Actress. It also won for production design, costume design, makeup, and hairstyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it upset Maestro.
Really, though?
Well, Maestro was the heavy favorite, and that was the only one that Maestro could have won.
It was not my heavy favorite.
Yeah, then we had Zone of Interest won International Film and Best Sound. And then we had Billie Eilish winning for Best Song. What did you think about that?
I mean, I felt like that was the favored choice. It's also like a very Oscars thing to do, is go with the more serious song than to go with the more fun I'm Just Ken.
Yeah, what did you think of Ryan Gosling's performance?
I mean, that was peak cinema.
Yeah, we probably should have led with that, but that was probably the best part of the show.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think that it was one of those things where like he could either not do it and they just don't perform it, or he's got to go all out, and he really went all out. Like he kind of ended up in the like, he's such like a well-known actor at this point that he could honestly have just washed his hands clean of the entire Barbie thing publicity-wise and still be making bank from it forever. And he could have been the guy that's like, I'm too cool for this, and like, this is silly. But like, he's kind of kept it going for a long time. And like, I like when like stars do that, where they just are like fine with being remembered as a certain character. I get it when people are like annoyed by it after like a long repetitive time of constantly being called a certain character or whatever, but I just appreciate that like he's willing to go there with the performance.
Yeah, and like he didn't win, Robert Downey Jr. won, but it's good that he went ahead and still committed to the performance even though he lost. And
yeah, and Barbie didn't actually win any awards.
Yeah, Barbie, The Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, American Fiction all won one. Yeah, Barbie lost a lot of production design. It kind of like got out Poor Things by Poor Things.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, Barbie technically won for Best Song. But that's it. I think that there was a directing award in there that should have gone to Greta Gerwig. But honestly, I mean, I know she wasn't even nominated, but other than that, like, I don't really see any other awards that it's like, this was a major, like, Barbie just completely was shut out. Like, it was a really, really good movie. And like, I totally agree that it should have been nominated for like production design. But if we're talking like Barbie Oscar snubs, it's Dua Lipa that should have been nominated for Best Song with Dance the Night Away.
Yeah, we really missed out on Dua Lipa performing.
Yeah, and like if you just look back in the last 5 years at where Dua Lipa has come from as far as her vocals and her like ability to perform on a stage in front of a lot of people, it's incredible just how like much she's grown as a performer. Like realistically, her dance moves pre-2020 were pretty cringy and bad, and like she's just now at a point where she's like a powerhouse. Like you can tell she's been training.
Yeah, I think she's coming out with more songs soon. Yeah, then Anatomy. Oh, then yeah, Divine Joy Randolph won supporting actress, which was expected.
Well deserved.
And then the screenplays, Anatomy of a Fall won original, American Fiction won adapted.
Yeah, I was happy about the American Fiction win. I really liked American Fiction, and you still need to see it, but Cord Jefferson had like a really great speech that I don't know if it is going to fall on deaf ears necessarily, but I think it was important what he talked about, which if you weren't there, if you weren't watching the Oscars, basically Cord Jefferson was talking about it's really important and it's great to make super high budget movies, but why don't we make 10 small budget movies or 20 really micro budget movies and like give new directors a chance? And like,
I really like that.
I loved that. And like, again, I don't know if it fell on deaf ears or whatever, but I think it was important to talk about those things. And honestly, there wasn't like a single speech that any of the winners gave that I was like, okay, get them off the stage. Like, they're just being annoying. Like, I feel like a lot of Oscars in the past, sometimes somebody will win an award and they just go off on a tangent and you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like a la Joaquin Phoenix talking about cows or something, which
Yeah, this was a pretty mild speech night.
I respect whatever he was trying to say, but it's just like, work on your delivery. You have only so much time to say what you need to say, and you have a platform in that moment. So it's like, make it relevant to what your award is. And I feel like a lot of people made their awards or the receiving of their awards related to their speech in some way, which I thought was good. Which apparently I figured out recently that they actually get coached on what they should and should not say.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know where.
I felt like there was a lot more people opening paper this time than usual.
Apparently they were coached this time to try not to have paper.
So that's funny because there was definitely like 3 or 4 at least that I saw. We also had Maestro, Past Lives, and Killers of the Flower Moon got shut out. We'll talk more about Maestro and Killers of the Flower Moon in a little bit. And then some other notable wins. The Boy and the Heron won for Best Animated Film over Spider-Man. Godzilla -1 won for Best Visual Effects. And then we had Wes Anderson winning his first Oscar, but it was a short film.
And he wasn't there.
Which was...
First award.
Yeah.
But not award. His first Oscar.
Yeah, the director of The Boy and the Heron wasn't there either, but he's...
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah, he's much older and like from Japan, and like it made more, and apparently he wasn't there in 2001 when they gave it to him for Spirited Away. So but then for Wes Anderson not to be there, it's interesting. And then finally for Best Documentary, the winner was 20 Days in Mariupol, the Ukrainian film about the Ukraine-Russia war, and they had a really good speech as well.
Yeah. I haven't seen that documentary or any of the documentaries.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to be on streaming. Same thing with Godzilla -1, The Boy and the Heron. Those are two other ones that haven't been on streaming yet. So I kind of had 5 kind of like subtopics to talk through. Not really questions, but kind of like thought exercises for the future about the Oscars and what we saw. So like my first one was... is Martin Scorsese done? And what is up with this? So his past 4 movies have a combined 26 nominations and 0 total wins. So Killers of the Flower Moon is 0 for 10, The Irishman was 0 for 10, Silence was 0 for 1, and Wolf of Wall Street was 0 for 5.
Really?
Yes, so his last 4 movies have not won a single Oscar. And Lily Gladstone was potentially going to win tonight.
For Best
Actress, and she did not win. So yeah, it's interesting with him being so old and him basically getting, I'm pretty sure all 4 of those movies were like $200+ million movies. And like The Irishman, he had this big deal with Netflix. Netflix is no longer really making movies like The Irishman anymore. Like 2018, Netflix had Marriage Story and The Irishman, and I think one other one that got nominated for Best Picture, and they all lost. And they recently switched out their Netflix head business guy to like who's in charge of acquiring movies. So now like Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon was an Apple movie. So it's kind of like, is there going to be another streamer, or is he going to stay with Apple where he can just continue to make $200 million movies that aren't winning Oscars? Or is he going to try to make much smaller movies? Or is he just not going to make any more movies because he's like 80-something years old? This was kind of like I thought The Irishman was going to kind of be like his swan song. Yeah. But then this movie came out but it still didn't win anything.
I mean, I don't know if Martin Scorsese is necessarily getting his feelings hurt by not getting an Oscar, to be honest.
Yeah, I just think it's weird that, I mean, like, if Lily Gladstone won, like, that's not his Oscar. I'm just saying, like, all of his entire movies haven't won anything, which is crazy.
But I don't know if that necessarily means he's going to be like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm quit. Like, if it's happened this many times, it's clear he has perseverance at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he's like done making movies, but I'm just suggesting, is he done ever being considered to win another Oscar? Because I think it's clear that the Academy has moved on.
I think the Academy at this point has moved on unless he decides to make something that's a little bit more daring. Because I think the most daring part about Killers of the Flower Moon is the Native American stories, and it's Lily Gladstone. Like, Robert De Niro's great. Leo is fine, but like, let's just like call it what it is. It's a good movie, but it's not great. Like, I don't think it's... I think the Academy is going to be fed up and done with him until he makes something that's great again. Because you've seen him do something that's great, you know, for years at this point. So it's like, unless he makes something great, then it's like, we're just getting mediocre Scorsese in between now and then.
Okay, my next topic is Bradley Cooper. So he was shut out for Maestro, and he kind of did... There's some actors who do this career arc where they're in a lot of good movies as actors, and then there's something about being in a lot of movies that makes them want to now become a director. So then, you know, he did A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga. That did it. I think that won Best Song for Gaga, but he didn't win Best Actor. And now he did Maestro. So my question to you would be, what would you do to kind of restart his next chapter in his career?
Well, I don't think it's any secret that, like, I was a Bradley Cooper stan for, like, 15 years, basically. I basically watched him in the early J.J. Abrams TV show Alias. He was a minor character, a minor returning character. And that was when I was like, I gotta Google who this actor is and like look up their IMDb and like try to see all their movies, because he wasn't in anything at that point. Like, this was pre-Hangover, this was pre-anything that he was ever in. And so I think at that point he was in like Wet Hot American Summer or something, and like that was it, and he didn't even have like a big part. This was pre-Wedding Crashers, when he was already a minor character in that. So anyway, all that to say, I've like loved him and loved his face for the longest time. And if he's in it, I will see it. But it was probably this last year that I was like, I just am so bothered by the grabbiness of what appears to be somebody desperately seeking an Oscar. There's something about like directors, actors, writers, anybody that just like creates something that's blatantly like Oscar bait that just really grosses me out, because it's like, why? Like, why are you making art for the award? Like, that just grosses me out. And I feel like Maestro, my personal opinion is that, and I think a lot of people share this opinion, that it's very of the Oscar bait territory, and it feels very smarmy in like a weird way. And so what I would do for Bradley Cooper is I would make something fucking weird. Like, he needs to make a very fucking weird movie, but pour his heart and soul into it and be okay with it. Like, it's clear that weird movies, like if you just look at Poor Things, are like dominating, because that's what people want, is something different. People want pretty women in ugly roles. They want, you know, hot-looking men in slimy, disgusting, emaciated, Cillian Murphy in a top hat type of movies. Like, people want gritty, they want weird, and I feel like Bradley Cooper is like maybe 5 to 10 years behind the trend of understanding that. So he's like, I'm going to make this beautiful black and white. I'm going to have this transatlantic accent, and we're going to do these incredible prosthetics. And I'm just going to be like constantly petitioning for Leonard Bernstein and how awesome he was, even though I never fucking met him. Like, I just think that he needs to go weird, and he needs to make something where he's in it, but he's directing, but we literally can't recognize him.
Yeah, his next movie he's going to act and not direct, with Steven Spielberg directing, is Bullitt, which is like a remake of a 60s movie about a San Francisco cop. But then he does have a few other films he's going to direct coming out, but it's like not sure what they're about. But anyway, yeah, I think he needs to do something that's definitely not a biopic. Because he also did that American Sniper movie, which was also kind of similar, where it's like he's playing a real person. But yeah, if he were to do something like wacky and like a supporting role, like he is the voice of the raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy, which a lot of people think is really good, but obviously it's a voiceover. But something like that where he's just like a side character. He was in that movie Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson 2 years ago, where he's like in a few scenes and he's yelling and he's kind of funny. But yeah, I think he needs to kind of stop with the epic musical movies like Star is Born and now Maestro.
I liked A Star is Born. Don't get me wrong.
Well, that was mostly because of Lady Gaga.
Yeah, let's be fucking for real. It's Lady Gaga that I liked in that movie. And she is the type of person to have great on-screen chemistry with basically anybody. So it's not hard to have good chemistry with somebody like Bradley Cooper. You know, y'all could be siblings. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just think if he goes weird, or if he goes like, I mean, I could even see him doing like documentary or something where it's like something that he's passionate about, and not just
something interesting,
not just something that he chooses to make a movie about. Like, I do understand that, like, I was watching an interview with him. Ironically, it was the Vanity Fair Actors on Actors interview where Emma Stone and Bradley Cooper are interviewing each other. Apparently, he has wanted to be a conductor since he was like a child. And so this was just him living out his like childhood fantasy of being a conductor. So I know he put a lot of passion and heart into this movie, but I'm just saying, like, it should be a little bit less mainstream and like a little bit less like grand production. It should be a little bit more like niche or something. Like, I feel like that's where he could really get a good comeback.
Yeah, like even just Maestro being like a whole like lifelong journey of this man, I felt was also overbearing. Like if he just picked like one part of this guy's life, it could have been much better.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, my next topic is about Emma Stone. So she won Best Actress, her second one. She becomes the 15th woman ever to win 2 Best Actresses. So I wanted to ask, is she on track to become the next Meryl Streep? Or this generation's Meryl Streep?
I don't know if at this point, at this age, because she's 35 now, I don't know how far Meryl Streep was along. So I can't exactly give you that.
Yeah, so she's had a lot more nominations than obviously Emma Stone, but I think winning 2 this early is a pretty big deal for her. And if she wins just 1 more, she'll be tied with Frances McDormand for second most ever with 3, and then Katharine Hepburn has 4 Best Actress winners. So it'll be interesting to see like the film she does in the next few years. Like Hilary Swank won her second Oscar at age 30 when she did $1 Million Baby, but she hasn't even been anywhere close to an Oscar since then, and 20 years. So I don't think that'll be Emma Stone.
So like Meryl Streep at age 35, how many Oscars did she have? Or how many nominations did she have? That's what I'm saying is like, I could wager that I think Emma Stone is this generation's Meryl Streep, but I don't know if she's quote unquote on track.
Well, I just mean like, do you think I'm not saying do you think she'll get 18 and like, let's think about it. Like, I'm just saying.
By the time she's Meryl Streep's age.
Yeah, like Meryl Streep right now is 74. And so that gives, Emma Stone 40 years to get 1 more Best Actress. And you get like people like Annette Bening who will get nominated multiple times, and Jodie Foster. So it's like, I'm pretty sure she's going to get nominated a lot more. Like, I'm not suggesting she's going to get 17 nominations. But yeah, by 1983, Meryl Streep had a supporting actress and a Best Actress, but she didn't win her second Best Actress till 2012.
So if you're taking the term literally, if she's on track, Emma Stone is actually surpassing the frequency of nominations and wins that Meryl Streep had at the age of 35.
Just wins. Nominations. Streep has.
So Meryl Streep had more nominations by age 35, but had less wins.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just trying to ask is like, who other than Emma Stone, who's under 35, is like gonna continuously compete with Emma Stone? Like as of right now, I don't know if anybody. Like Jennifer Lawrence is making rom-coms.
There's not really any like large actresses in. Right, I mean maybe Zendaya, but like other than that, like I don't think she's really like as award. Like she hasn't received as many nominations or like as much award-centric recognition as Emma Stone even has. Like there's a wide margin between.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like she has a huge head start on everybody her age and younger. And I mean, Meryl Streep again is 70 something, so like she could maybe win more Oscars, and like there's definitely like Frances McDormand is still acting, so she could technically win a 4th Oscar at some point. But I'm just saying, I think like obviously Emma Stone's stock is rising, so I put the over under at 1.5 Best Actress wins after this. Do you think she would win 2 more or maybe just 1 more?
I think 1.5 is good.
Yeah. Obviously, it depends on the project, and it depends on like who else is nominated. Like she could have easily lost to Lily Gladstone, but she just didn't. So like that happened to Meryl Streep a ton, where she'll get nominated and just doesn't win. But
she also is already slated to be working with Yorgos again, another movie. So it's like she's not slowing down.
Yeah. Okay, my last 2 topics. So yeah, Christopher Nolan won for Best Director, and Oppenheimer kind of was the big winner of the night. So, we haven't seen Dune 2 yet, but it seems as if already Dune 2 is the front runner, at least to be nominated for Best Picture, and then Denis Villeneuve for Director. So I think it's interesting if we're going to have another big summer blockbuster. I guess March is technically a summer with Oppenheimer coming out in July, but I think there could be a correlation between Dune Part 2 and Oppenheimer, but I'm not sure yet.
It could be a big deal at award season. You said the first Dune it just got nominated for a few things, but
yeah, I think it won a few things, but
got it.
And then my last little point is like since the Oscars became international, like they've added a lot of international voters really since the past 4 years or so, like ever since the Parasite Oscars. It's just been anytime there's been a close race, it always skews towards the international pick. And I think it's like a more standard view of future nominations. Like there's always going to be an international director. This year there was 2. There's always going to be 1, if not multiple, actors or actresses that are strictly like international, like Sandra Hüller this year. And then there's always 1, 2, sometimes 3 Best Picture nominees that are international. And then, last year we had All Quiet on the Western Front, won a lot of awards. This year we had the aforementioned Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla -1, that won visual effects, and then But the Boy and the Heron. So I think we have 4 years of data to back up the fact that, or really 5 years, that there's so many more international winners and nominees, and just to expect that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that is a reason maybe why something like Killers of the Flower Moon, it's an American specific film.
Also Barbie, I thought about that too. Like
It's pretty American centric.
No one in Europe cares about Barbie. No one in
like I know Barbie was a big trend, but like I don't think it was as big of a deal as it was like just in the United States.
And I think Oppenheimer is a little different because obviously it's about like
a world event.
It is, and Christopher Nolan's and Emma Thomas are UK based, and like there's a ton of European settings in that movie, and like
yeah,
and it's like a humanity world type movie. So like
And you could say the same for Maestro, is like he's just an American
A composer.
that wasn't even considered the greatest. So
Yeah, like if you think of last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once won. That had international stars in it, like Michelle Yeoh, but it's not like a foolproof thing. Like the international films are always going to win. I'm just saying, like, there's definitely a solid contingent of international voters that are skewing heavily towards, because like the big thing with the animated Oscar was like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse won mostly all the precursor awards. Like it won the big animation awards it won, but that was like primarily like American-based voters. So when they come to the Oscars and there's more international people and The Boy and the Heron's international, that it seems like they skewed to pick that movie.
yeah.
So I think ultimately, I mean, I know Parasite won 4 years ago, but I think we're going to see more international films winning Best Picture in the next few years to decade. And I think it's just going to keep becoming that.
Yeah, and like when someone wins an award, they are basically inducted into the Academy. Therefore, with every person that is international that is not from the US that is nominated and wins something, they sort of have a ticket to then invite more and more international potential winners into the voting circle by nominating them and potentially letting them win. So it makes sense that like gradually the Academy is becoming more diverse, and that means that the choices become more diverse and as far as like what country of origin the movie is from or things like that, which I think it's good because it's a little bit more full picture of like all the movies that came out this year instead of just like what was created inside of Hollywood, California. Like not so, like some of the best movies are not created in this country.
Yeah, and if they want the Oscars to be these are the best movies, then you have to open it up to more international movies. Like an Emmy Fallen Best Screenplay, and that's a French screenplay. So like that's just one example of someone from France winning, and then they get to vote in perpetuity basically now. So like I think it's a good thing. I think it makes like the Best Picture race more interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially now that there's 10 nominees. So the chances of all 10 being from the US is low.
Yeah.
Now.
For sure. So that was kind of our recap of the Oscars. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.